Okay, so you and I are going to do something different today, and really it all revolves around the fact that when you strap an EV to an internal combustion engine, you're telling me you're driving around town. So to that end, welcome to my backyard, and we're going to play around with a little EV and a little of the internal combustion engine. So to really understand that, you need to understand this button here, and that is the eDrive button. And basically what that does is separate between the gas motor and the electric motor. So let's get across this intersection here and take a look at the waves. That's crazy. The weather has been nuts here. So we've got a relatively open spot here, and we're not doing 0 to 60s here. We're probably doing 0 to 25s. Right now, I've got this thing in battery hold mode. What it does is saves the EV charge, and I've got 12 miles of range left, so basically I haven't used much of it. Let's say I live outside of London and I want to commute into London, which is a congestion charging area, and I want to save that EV for driving around London to get a lower congestion charge. That's effectively what I feel this is for. So with that, let's do just gas and see how 4 cylinders in a 206-inch length car works. So let's go up to the speed here. And you know what? It goes. But now let's try something different. Let's switch over to the full EV mode. So it's auto eDrive, max eDrive. Let's put our foot into it. You know what? It's not as quick, but the whole idea for max EV drive is to get this thing to last as long on the battery as it can. At the end of the day, you're not sitting here and saying, oh my God, this is the slowest 7 Series I've ever driven in my life. Energy recovery, charge, concept. The hybrid system makes it possible to convert kinetic energy into electrical power when braking and coasting. Okay, so if I'm translating that correctly, basically the car will run both on gas and electric. Obviously, stop and go when it needs torque, like instantaneous, uses the EV, switches over to gas when it doesn't need like torque at low demands, that kind of stuff. But there is this instance of driving in full EV mode, which I told you in the tech review is only 16 miles, which, if I'm honest, not good enough. I think it needs to be more like 50, especially a car this size where you could put batteries pretty much anywhere. The big thing that we need to focus on here is how does it feel with a 4-cylinder engine and an EV? And if I'm honest, this is where I was a bit nervous about driving this thing, because we've driven the 4 cylinders in other cars, and like in that E300, it just, forget about the suspension. Oh my God, that is a lava orange GTS. That is stunning. Absolutely stunning. Okay, enough with the 911s. Let's get back to driving dynamics. That E300, the engine didn't feel supple enough for that size car. And of course, here is one as we're talking about it. Here, you got a bigger car, but still the same kind of engine. Okay, so getting out of the alley and onto a road that mimics more driving around normal towns, you can really get an understanding of what I'm talking about here. So we're in EV mode, put our foot into it, and it builds power like a 7 Series, like I would believe a luxury car would be, a big luxury car. But if I were to put this thing into battery control, go back to 4 cylinders, put my foot into it, it's got that same feel of that E300. It just doesn't feel like a luxury car. Then there's this infotainment system. This is Gen 5, I believe, of iDrive, and believe it or not, it actually works and works pretty well. So there is obviously the rotary controller here, and then all these function buttons around here. So if I want to go to the main menu here, you've got all these tiles, so you can go into the different sets of tiles by touching or by using this thing here, and you can actually, in the newer version of it, you can move these tiles around. So let's say for the sake of discussion, I want to go into navigation, and then if I want to hit the map, I'll put the map button there. But what's interesting, I can use this rotator knob thing here, and I could pinch to zoom. And notice how quick that pinch to zoom is. I can even move around. Look at that. That is as quick as any recent generation iPad. So finally, someone is paying attention that you need a fast processor in here to get this thing to work, where I'm not sitting here and thinking, you know what, I would rather have Apple or Google try to figure this out instead of somebody, even a UX designer at BMW, but something tells me this UX designer probably came from Silicon Valley because this works incredibly well. And then you can go into the media here. Now this one is not fitted with Apple CarPlay like that 5 Series we had, but still it's got the usual, you know, satellite and all that kind of stuff. But what's interesting, and I want to go back to the map to show you this, split screen. So you got this big, I think it's 10 inches, something like that, but you've got the map, but then you could put radio, or I can switch this thing up here and switch it to, I can do more navigation, go into arrow display, position, onboard computer, even the energy flow can be read here, simultaneous with the map. This, I gotta tell you, is a very nice touch. Other than that, I would like to see that wireless Apple CarPlay make its way here, because after all, this is 7, that was a 5. Okay, so now let's get into a normal traffic situation, higher speed, double lanes. And the general idea here is the whole thing works, but again, it gets back to that suppleness of that engine. When you're at speed and you're using both the electric and the gas, it feels like any other BMW. But when you really, like, let's say for the sake of discussion, you are late and you are frustrated and you want to get somewhere and you put your foot into this thing, it doesn't have quite that same, like, oh my God, this thing is like powered by a turbine of that 750. That V8 engine BMW puts out is incredible. Let me put this another way. It's a baby step for a mature car. It's not in a package that, like a Leaf, it looks stupid. It's not in a car that looks tall and short and is designed to get people's attention, as opposed to this is just a car that pleases me. So in summary, what do we got? A concept that I love. Now, if you have seen my 1st gen or 2nd gen Volt episodes, you know that I love the concept of those vehicles because they fit in today's infrastructure. And really, if we're honest, this car is just a very large, very fancy Volt, one with an incredibly nice interior, and works quite well, except for one thing, the range. 16 miles of range is utterly ridiculous, and I don't think they should have brought this out with 16 miles of range. And I get the concept is to extend the range of the overall gas and electric to over 500 like a diesel. Think of this as like an open letter to the folks at BMW's Fizz in North Munich. You've got a huge canvas here. You can hide all sorts of batteries here and don't put them just back here, and get this thing to at least 50 miles of range, probably 100. And frankly, people that buy these things, money's not a huge thing. So if the car goes up to $10,000, $20,000 in price, I don't think anybody would be too fussed about it. And probably the overall reality of the finished product would be better. Not that this one is bad, it's just 16 miles of range. Anyway, now I need to turn this around to you guys. And my question is not so much about the range, it's this whole Volt idea on this type of vehicle. So if you own an S-Class, own an LS, own a Cadillac, or own a 7 Series, I would love to know if this kind of thing moves the needle for you. Would this make you want to buy the BMW over some of the others because it has this system? And don't just tell me why or why not, but I also want to know what region of the world you hail from, because like I said in the tech review, I think these work very well in places like London or Northern Europe, where you do want to save that 16 miles for around town. Anyway, let me know in the comments below or via our social media, MotoManTV all in word, MotoManTV all in word, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. And with that, I want to leave you with 2 things. Make sure you download our updated app, which works specifically for Season 7. And oh, by the way, we are still live on 5, count them 5 international islands. And number 2, a fun fact, and it's kind of tied to the fun fact that I shared with you in the tech review of this vehicle. I have been able to drive 6 of the 10 days I've had this completely on EV mode. So I feel like I should earn a prize for that. Anyway, until I see you next time, bis später.